One of the best games of 2023 just landed on macOS. Yes, we're talking about the Resident Evil 4 remake that was present at the Game Awards this year. And given the excellent job Capcom did with their Resident Evil Village for Mac, we just can't wait to see how Resident Evil 4 runs on macOS. As always, we went ahead and tested the game on our two main M1 machines to see how it performs on Apple Silicon Macs. And spoiler alert, it runs great. Capcom is definitely crushing it when it comes to remakes, and macOS support of Resident Evil 4 is perhaps their best job to date in both fronts. Hell, Resident Evil 4 might be the best macOS port to date, as it runs and looks beautiful on our M1 Pro Mac, but can the cheapest M1 and M2 models handle this beast? If we go by the system requirements, which you can see on screen, every Apple Silicon based Mac can run Resident Evil 4. From the oldest 2020 M1 MacBook Air to the next M3 models. The only thing the game asks of you is to have macOS 13 or newer. Resident Evil Village was a perfect example of what Apple Silicon Macs can do, especially when games are properly optimized, and we're happy to see Capcom follow through with Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 features all the latest Metal 3 goodies that you can expect in a AAA Mac port, including MetalFX upscaling. This allows even the least powerful M1 Mac, the 2020 M1 MacBook Air, to run the game at decent frame rates and quality settings. And did we also mention Resident Evil 4 offers iCloud sync and full controller support? I'm sorry to be gushing here, but this game really is the complete macOS package. Now coming back to the actual benchmarks. We tested the game on two machines using different combinations of resolutions, 1920 by 1080 and 2560 by 1440, graphics, and MetalFX settings to see how both Macs performed under different conditions. On the M1 Pro MacBook Pro, we tested the game on two different resolutions, 1920 by 1080 and 2560 by 1440, always using the prioritized graphics and quality MetalFX presets. On 1080p, the game ran at a smooth 50 to 60 FPS on average. We tend to record the lowest averages, in this case 52 frames per second, but the game usually ran at much higher frame rates. Even during the most intense sequences with up to 10 enemies on screen, the frame rate remained fluid at around 45 to 50 FPS. To test the M1 Pro processor even further, we upped the resolution to 1440p and the frame rates dropped to 40 to 45 FPS. Given the pace of the game, that was more than acceptable because, again, frames rarely drop below 40 FPS. But what about the base M1 MacBook Air? Does it have what it takes to run Resident Evil 4? We kinda spoiled this section already by confirming that even the cheapest, weakest M1 machines can run Resident Evil 4 at more than acceptable frame rates. Using a 1080p resolution, balanced graphics, and performance MetalFX presets, the game runs at an average of 46 FPS. During intense fights, frames would drop to around 35 FPS, but considering that many games run at 30 FPS on consoles, we can consider it mission accomplished for the MacBook Air. Switching to the MetalFX quality setting will produce roughly 10 FPS less on average. In our tests, using the same resolution and graphics but moving to quality effects instead of performance MetalFX resulted in 36 FPS on average. This led to sub 30 FPS during action-packed sequences, which is not ideal whatsoever. We definitely recommend either sticking to performance MetalFX or lowering either the resolution or graphics preset. It is worth noting that when playing this game on the native 14-inch screen on my M1 Pro, MetalFX got the job done. It delivers plus 10 FPS on average, and the loss of definition was barely noticeable. This is especially true when moving around fighting enemies. The benefits from MetalFX in terms of performance improvements far outweigh the minor losses of graphics fidelity. You can download Resident Evil 4 for Mac on the App Store. We usually complain when a Mac port is not made available on Steam, but in this case the App Store version is meaty. It includes a free demo and full versions for iPhone and iPad in case you were wanting to take Resident Evil 4 on the road. What else can be said about this astounding port? We can only hope more developers will follow Capcom's steps and deliver macOS ports that are this good. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.